Welcome everyone to our wonderful event here. I am Dean Camacho. I am the communication specialist for Immaculate Heart Community. Thank you everyone for joining. Can't see them just yet, but we do have some guests on Zoom. Thank you to those on Zoom as well. Just kind of getting right into it. So if this is your first time here, which I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting, there are some restrooms right behind us to the left of this little corridor. Follow the weird looking closet and it's on the left hand side. We've also got one on the right hand side as soon as you head back out towards the front. Just as an announcement as well, we would love for you guys to take a look at that registration flyer table up in the front. We've all got some stuff for you to look at, and you'll see some forms for Friends of the Heart, which is our volunteer program. We'd love for you guys to sign up and see all of the exciting events we've got going on this year, and might as well, hey, help out with it while you can. On your chairs, you're going to see a few items. So number one, of course, the full mark, and then two, the participation survey. We love for you guys to use the QR code, fill out, can provide pens as well, and feel free when we're done to go ahead and drop them back off at that registration table in the front. It kind of just helps us know what you guys are looking forward to for the rest of the year, what you'd like to see, and all that kind of good stuff as well. For those that are on Zoom, we will go ahead and put that link in the chat as well for you to do the survey online. Now, our next event in Los Angeles is going to be February 13th. It's our next Lunch and Learn with Bob Williams. He's one of the canons for Common Life for the Episcopal Diocese of LA. The one for up here back in Santa Barbara is going to be February 26th. Please feel free to check that out. We'll go ahead and release the same things. Registration, you will be the first to know. As a reminder, all of these events are provided free of charge, so we do really appreciate any support and donations that we do receive to keep these accessible for everybody. For the Q&A portion that we will have once Karina is done with her lovely presentation, we ask that if you have a question in the room, you raise your hand. We'll come over with a microphone just like this. Please wait for the mic, speak clearly, speak loud, for our online friends to still be a part of the discussion. We'll go ahead and take 2 questions in the room, 2 questions online, and we'll kind of just follow that process. A big thank you to the Immaculate Heart Community, of course, and La Casa de Maria. A lot of this wouldn't be possible without the widespread collaboration we have, and we're all very grateful to be here. A big thank you to Heal the Ocean and the team. It's been amazing working alongside you guys for this event. And as well as everyone else kind of involved in this process, we're very grateful to start off the new year with something that we've all been kind of waiting for quite a while, and it's finally here. With all that being said, I give a warm welcome to President, Principal Executive Officer, Sherry Purcell.
Thank you, Dean. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to see you. The Immaculate Heart Community began the Lunch and Learn series about 3 years ago. It was my first year as president, first year for Pam Hope to be our mission advancement director. And we launched it as a way for us as the Immaculate Heart Community to live out our goal statement, which calls us to hold reverence for all of creation as we foster access of all persons to truth, dignity, and full human development, and change practices and situations which impede such access. So we brought our Lunch and Learn up here in November. It was raining that day, but we still had a good turnout. And as Dean said, we're going to continue the series through this year, so please stay tuned for that. Before I do any more introductions, I really do want to invite you to power up with us for a minute. So you all have this bookmark on your chairs. And we started this last year, the Power Up at Noon practice, but really do it any time during the day. And we've extended an invitation to anyone who's interested just to pause for a few minutes, quiet yourselves from the noise and the chaos that surrounds us at all levels of our lives. I don't have to say to you that we live in unprecedented times, And many of us struggle with the pain and indifference that has impacted our lives as our country seeks to find its moral compass again. So at this time, I invite you to power up if you wish, and just center yourself, feet on the floor, close your eyes if you want to, and put your hand over your heart. So we're going to power up our hearts with love and peace and extend that energy outward. So take a deep breath into your heart, power it up, and breathe that energy across our community, across Los Angeles, across Minnesota, any place that is really struggling right now. Breathe that energy out. Breathe into your heart again, load it up, power it up, and breathe that energy out to our nation. Breathe in again, power up, and breathe that energy out to the world. Our whole world is at a crossroads right now, and it needs love and compassion and energy of peace. Breathe in again and out, and let's embrace Mother Earth. We're going to be honoring Mother Earth today as we listen to our speaker, but let's send that energy out for healing of the earth. And one more time, breathe in, power up your hearts, and let's send that energy out to each other, all of us who are in this room, all of us who are gathered here to really raise our consciousness about some issues that really need our attention. And with that, I say, so it is. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
So last year, the Immaculate Heart Community celebrated its 55th anniversary as a lay community. We have men and women in our community. We believe in God, and we believe in living out our faith through justice and social justice activities that are aligned with our 5 commissions. So we have a commission on justice for women, one for justice for immigrants, refugees, and indigenous people, one for people who are unhoused. We have one for the environment, and we have a commission that we call anti-racism as spiritual transformation. We don't live in convent, we're not nuns anymore, we're a community without walls, and our members live all over the United States. We have 2 members in Canada and 2 members in England. So we accept new members every year. Please check out our website. Dean mentioned Friends of the Heart. Please check that out also. So today we're going to be welcoming Karina Johnston. She's the Executive Director of Heal the Ocean. She is a dedicated scientific and community leader with many years of experience across California's coastal ecosystem. Her work bridges science, policy, and public engagement to advance healthy, sustainable, and climate-resilient coastlines. Her previous roles included Senior Restoration Ecologist at Tidal Influence and Science Director of the Bay Foundation, where she led habitat restoration, outreach, and water quality improvement programs. Heal the Bay is a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on reducing ocean pollution and providing science-based solutions to improve the health of our ocean and resilience of our coast to benefit people and wildlife. Heal the Ocean is a Santa Barbara County-based organization, and their methods serve as models for other coastal communities across the country. Now, when you come to a lunch and learn, we ask you to do 3 things. We believe in educating ourselves on this topic, increasing our understanding of whatever the topic is that we're talking about during our lunch and learn. And then we do ask you to pray in your own faith tradition, whatever that is, so that we start to, again, raise the consciousness of all of us around what needs to be done. And then finally, we ask you to act. Put your faith, put your beliefs into action. So as you listen to Karina, please consider how you might get involved in helping her with her work. So with that, please help me welcome Karina Johnston.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A big shout out to the Immaculate Heart Community. Thank you so much for having me, and for La Casa de Maria hosting us on this absolutely gorgeous day in Santa Barbara. And welcome everybody in the audience. Welcome everybody on Zoom. I can't see you, but happy to interact with you in a little bit. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And I am Karina Johnston, the Executive Director for Heal the Ocean. Today, I am here to tell you a little bit about myself, share some stories, and talk about what Heal the Ocean does, our mission, some of our programs, how to get involved. But I wanted to start with a tribal land acknowledgement. Today, we are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Chumash nations and tribal communities. And we pay honor to their elders, past and present, and thank them for all of their partnerships and collaborations that help us do our work. The reason I bring it up is that some of the comments that were just said in the introductions triggered this for me in my recent conversations with some of the Chumash leaders. They reminded me that we're all connected. And by we, it's more of a collective we, a community that involves all of you, everybody who lives in our area, the tribes, but also the animals and the plants, and that we're part of a bigger collective community, and that we have this deep love and connection to the ocean. And that really resonated with me because I've always felt that connectivity with the ocean. I grew up in landlocked Texas, had family in Southern California, and every time I would come out to visit, I knew that I needed to be here long term. So as soon as I got the chance, I moved here. And that was 25 years ago. But the reason is because I remember as a very small child seeing the ocean for the first time and feeling this sense of peace and connectivity. And so when I have those types of conversations with the tribal community, it really kind of resonates with me. And I feel like that exemplifies some of what the Immaculate Heart Community is talking about in the Power Up moments that we just had, and some of this kind of bigger connection. So this is a picture of my son. Speaking of connection and community, his name is Liam. In this photo, he's 6. He would be very mad at me for showing it because now he's 8 and he's a much bigger kid now. But I took this photo at a beach in Santa Barbara, and we were, the reason I show this photo is because it's the first time that Liam discovered sand crabs. Sand crabs, and you can kind of see in the swash zone, in the sort of middle part of the picture, where all the sand crabs are. And he thought it was the most amazing discovery on the planet. He didn't realize that this whole community of organisms lives in the sand, is occasionally buried by the sand, then exposed again, the tides come in and out. And this beach provides this intersection of this nexus between the ocean and the land. And he was so happy. And then, as a true budding scientist, he discovered that the bigger sand crabs were in the deeper water, the smaller sand crabs were further up on land. And then we talked about this whole concept of ecological zonation, which is not why you're here today. But anyway, it inspired me and it reminded me that that was the way that I felt when I was a child. That was the way that I remember looking at the ocean and feeling this sense of peace and connection and meditation and the vastness of it. And I knew at the time, when I was growing up in the 80s, that there were lots of problems to solve. And so it was sort of inevitable that I would kind of come full circle here. I'll tell you a little bit about my history, but that's kind of where it started. And the other thing that I find inspiring was that it was mentioned that I was the science director for a nonprofit in LA for a number of years. That was my dark time when I wasn't living in Santa Barbara, so we don't talk about that, no. No, just kidding. For everybody that's in LA on Zoom, thank you, you all are great. Lots of environmental problems in any coastal community that you're in. Of course, I loved LA, but when I was there, I used to take groups on tours and beach cleanups and tours of coastal habitats. And one of these was a school group, and they had been bussed out to the ocean, and they were about 3rd or 4th grade, which is about how old my son is now. And there was this big group of kids, and we were giving all the speeches and talking about how all the plants and animals interact here and why the beaches are important, keeping them clean is important. And one girl was crying, and she was kind of away from her friends and group. And I went to interact with her and just check in on her. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm just so happy." And I said, "Oh, I thought you were upset." And she said, "This is my first time seeing the ocean." And she lived not 15 miles from the ocean in inland LA. And that was a moment for me that changed everything, because I saw in her face what I felt like was my connectivity to the ocean too. She was learning new things, but the fact that was her first time, and she was 9, 10, seeing the ocean and not being even that physically far away from it was something that reminded me that this community that we have, this gratitude that I feel for being able to live in this coastal area and work in and on the ocean and in and around the coastline, it's not something that everybody experiences. And so that is something that we try to emphasize and support with school groups and outreach events and bringing people to the coast, because it's a place for everybody. The beach is for everyone. So a couple of slides just to walk you through some of my history. In the very early 2000s, I was an undergraduate at UCSB and knew I wanted to be a marine biologist. I'm pretty sure I told my mom when I was 5 I wanted to be a marine biologist, and was fortunate enough to be able to go to Santa Barbara UCSB and fulfill that. Did a number of different internships. I studied, so a couple of decades ago, studied the oil platforms, and now we're in the process of working towards decommissioning them, which is really an interesting time, and it's neat to have scuba dived on them, seen them, understood what some of the challenges were 25 years ago, and now kind of full circle working to kind of get some of the toxicity out of the ocean and move forward. But lots of scuba diving. I am an avid scuba diver. I am much better at being under the water than on the water. I'm a terrible surfer. Sorry, Heather. But I try. I am trying to teach my son, and now it's gotten to the point where I cannot help him anymore. So Noah, Heather, I'm looking at you for help on that. One of the opportunities that I got was to go to Antarctica and do research. When I was an undergrad, I took about 2 months off and went down on a summer trip, which was Antarctic summer, so it was still pretty cold, and was studying all the organisms that lived in the ocean. We were doing surveys of them and Then I was fortunate enough to be selected to go back in the winter, where we used chainsaws to dig holes out of the ice and go scuba diving, which was incredible. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of small up here, but the bottom left-hand corner is my eyelashes are frozen. There's actually small icicles sticking out of them there. That was because the wind made me tear up, and then my eyelashes froze and my eyes froze shut. And they said, put your goggles back on. I said, I know, I just wanted to see what you know. But anyway, the diving was amazing. It was beautiful. The very first dive we did, I think I sucked through my air so fast. I think I did a 20-minute dive. And then by the end, I was on the same size tank and everything. I was down for about an hour and 45 minutes or so. But interestingly enough, the water is -2 degrees. The air is about -50. And so getting in the water felt like a spa, which is pretty fun. These are some of my early work adventures. I went to graduate school in Australia. Again, very grateful, very fortunate to have that opportunity, studying the Great Barrier Reef. And then I came back and worked for a nonprofit in LA. I worked on a lot of different water quality issues. I worked on coastal habitat and wetland restoration projects. And I started a whole coastal resilience program in LA, the first beach dune restoration project to help provide a buffer from coastal flooding. So I'll tell a little bit more about that later. Okay, so let's talk about Heal the Ocean. Enough about me, even though I do love talking about myself. How did Heal the Ocean start? So in the 1990s, our founder, Hillary Hauser, many of you in this room know her. She is a powerhouse and a whirlwind of positive energy and change. And I am so lucky to have her as a mentor and as our founder. In the 90s, surfers were getting sick. Heal the Ocean was one of the first to trace it through environmental DNA to identify that the problem was bacteria coming from leaking septic systems along the coastline. And this history of, and it began in Rincon, the Rincon area, and at the border of Ventura and Santa Barbara County. And the surfers were getting sick. And Hillary and all of our amazing history of board members, donors, and advocates, starting in the 90s, banded together to form a community action group. It all really started with Hillary's editorial in the news press called Another Day at the Beach, ? One of the challenges that was identified was this source of bacterial pollution in these septic systems that were on the coast and leaking into the water and creating this really toxic problem for people who were swimming and surfing in the ocean. So this started our grassroots movement. We identified the source of that contamination, recognized what the solution was, and then implemented the solution, worked with many different agencies, homeowners, the sanitary districts, to get these coastal residences and commercial areas moved from septic to sewer systems. In doing so, upgrading some of the infrastructure and reducing all of that toxic pollution that was going into the ocean. That was our start. In the Rincon area alone, we helped convert over 7 miles of coastline from septics to sewers. Sorry if that's loud. Getting water. Now, today, we're just in a time that's very exciting, not the least of which is because I'm the new executive director, but I began in June of 2025, actually. So Hillary was the executive director for 27 years and is still on our board of directors and our strategic advisor. So I'm so lucky to follow in her footsteps as well as I can. But over this last year, we've really started this evaluation and expansion of our mission. And part of that is because there are some problems that have been solved. There are some pollution success stories and things to celebrate. And I love that. And then it also gives us an opportunity to move into new directions. We recognize that climate impacts are driving a lot of coastal problems, coastal flooding, marine heat waves, all types of issues, ocean acidification. And so there's a lot of other issues that we can start tackling, especially those related to climate impacts. I know it's not an easy time to talk about climate change, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So our new mission that we just revised last November, is that Heal the Ocean focuses on reducing ocean pollution and providing science-based solutions to improve the health of our ocean and resilience of our coasts to benefit people and wildlife. That's a mouthful, but there's two kind of things that I want to highlight as part of this. One is that ocean pollution has always been at our core. It will always stay at our core. Some of the problems change. Right now, the last few years, we've been really heavily focused on cleaning up trash. It's been a recurring problem. I think it got a little bit exacerbated in COVID and kind of still working on that. But that will still be part of our core. And then also, there's this new area that we're kind of expanding into, which is multi-benefit type of coastal projects that benefit the ocean. Also people, things like nature-based projects to help make our coastlines more resilient to climate flooding, and that collectively provide lots of benefits to water quality, benefits to people. So anyway, I'll talk a little bit about those. This is just a summary of a few of our major programs. We have lots more. These are some of the highlights. I'll walk through a few slides for each of these. One of them that's pretty close to us here down towards the ocean is we're running a Summerlin oil mitigation study. This is funded in part by the Ocean Protection Council, Maricoast Foundation, and Manitou Foundation. One of the things that we try to do is problem solve from all angles. And so identifying a problem is really just the start. Identifying the solution is the next step, but there's also this interim stage where you need to change policy, find funding, allocate different types of resources. Maybe there's a question that came up that we don't know the answer to that we need to answer before we can solve it. This is one of those situations. So we've supported State Lands Commission in abandoning 5 leaking oil wells in the Summerlin area over the last 10 years or so, most recently in 2023 with Treadwell oil wells number 1 of 5. But we realized they ran into some hiccups there. And we realized that we don't have a really good understanding of some of the geology and connectivity of some of these leaking oil and natural gas seeps and how they're connected to this historic set of oil wells off of Summerlin. What we're finding, so this study is to fill that data gap. The geology of the seafloor, for example, hadn't been mapped since the late 1800s. And so, of course, we need more updated maps than that to help inform this. But anyway, the study is answering some of those questions. We're finding a lot more connectivity between some of these old abandoned wells, which means we can help the state prioritize how to cap them. What would give you the most benefit with the least amount of risk? And hopefully get rid of some of that leaking oil pollution. Okay, our styrofoam recycling program. Since we began this program, we've recycled over 80,000 pounds of styrofoam. I say styrofoam kind of generically, any kind of foam that's related, which is 40 tons of styrofoam. If you stopped by our info table, there's a little piece of styrofoam there. You know how light styrofoam is. 40 tons is a lot. So this is a program we run in partnership with Marburg, City of Santa Barbara, County of Santa Barbara. And it's not something that's recycled in our region. It's not recycled anywhere close to us. And so this program was really vital to try to keep styrofoam out of our ocean and out of our landfills. The styrofoam that we recycle is then upcycled into products for the home, like baseboards and picture frames and things like that. We're in the process of expanding this program too, so stay tuned. We remove boat wrecks that land on our shores. We work with the city when those are in city waters, and the county when they're in unincorporated areas like Butterfly Beach and Montecito, which is a hotspot for boats washing ashore because it's right next to an area where people just moor their boats offshore. One of the reasons we got into this is because when boats wash ashore, they're often derelict boats or they've been abandoned. People don't have enough money to kind of pull them out of the ocean and pay to dispose of them. And so they're derelict and they wash ashore. Many of them don't even have owners. Some of them, most of them are uninsured. But we're on scene immediately. This is one of those quick action things that Heal the Ocean does. We do a lot of programs where we take quick action and then try to work towards a long-term solution. The quick action is needed to get rid of all the toxic pollutants that are on those boats. The oils, the sewage, the batteries, some parts of the engine and other contaminants, fuel. And then, so last year, we helped work with the county to remove 7 boat wrecks. But recently, we just initiated our countywide boat wreck task force. And so this is to try to solve the problem before it becomes a problem, before it ends up on the beach and leaking contaminants into the ocean. So this is a collaborative group working to implement different policies that might help solve that problem. This is another story time moment for me, cleaning up abandoned encampments. A few years ago, Hillary, our founder, Hillary Hauser, found a gentleman who was unhoused, and his name is Andrew Velaconje. And I'm telling the story and with his approval. Because at the time, when she was introduced to him and found him, he was living on the beach and was cleaning up the other encampments. So he recognized that his sort of footprint of his area was the only one that didn't have trash that was being thrown around, improperly disposed of sewage, and all of these other kind of problems. And he recognized that when the tide came in or a storm washed through, all of that trash would be going out to the ocean. So he would go around and start cleaning up these other encampments for free just because he felt like it was the right thing to do. He's so concerned about the environment. He and Hillary started a partnership. Now it's a Heal the Ocean partnership with Andrew as the founder of Earthcomb, and we clean up all kinds of different encampments all over the area, primarily prioritizing the ones that would wash out and end up in the ocean. This year alone, this past year in 2025, we cleaned up over 50,000 pounds of trash. That's 25 tons of trash. A lot of that with toxic materials in it and pollutants and all of it that would have washed right out into the ocean. But Andrew is this amazing success story. He's passionate, he's smart, he had a series of bad luck, and then he had somebody who looked at him and said, "I believe in you." And now it's this amazing partnership. He now hires other individuals who are unhoused to work as part of his team that we then kind of fund to do all these cleanups. And he feels connected to the environment in an even deeper way. And he is now housed. At the same time, providing outreach with our other partners like Good Samaritan to try to find alternative housing solutions. So that is a story that I love because Andrew is amazing. If you get the chance to meet him, one of our Heal the Ocean events, he's great. Another program we have is dog bag dispensers. We don't want our doggy friends waste going into the ocean. So there's about 50 different dog bag stations across Santa Barbara County that we maintain and partner with the county and city to keep filled. And we've got a lot of great donors for this program who put their dog's face on our stickers that go on the dog bag dispensers. We also have beach cleanups. This is another great way to engage the community. There's a lot of opportunity to, our beach cleanups aren't the sort of trash solving program. I think last year we cleaned up about 700 pounds of trash, which is nothing, no small feat, right? But it's mostly about bringing the community together, bringing them to the beach, learning about the ocean, learning about Heal the Ocean, learning about pollution prevention programs, and really just having a great day with the community, doing something great for the ocean. And lastly, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about coastal resilience. So what I mean by this is that there are lots of climate-driven impacts. Some of the ones that come to the forefront right now are coastal flooding and sea level rise. So those are some of the issues. This is really directly tied to a lot of things. It's tied to water quality issues. It's tied to some pollution sources. It's tied to coastal infrastructure, leaking, which again goes back to the start of our mission. And so one of the things that I really like to emphasize is projects that can provide multi-benefit outcomes that are nature-based, that are great for people and wildlife. So this is a photo in Santa Monica of a dune project that I started. The dunes, it was a beach that was raked every day in LA with giant grooming equipment, which removes any plants that start to grow, any kelp that washes ashore, anything that's living, snowy plover nests and things like that. So anyway, I worked with the city of Santa Monica and LA County Department of Beaches and Harbors, state parks, and we started blocking off these areas and let dunes form naturally, seeded it with some native vegetation. People can still go in and interact with it. And the dune, we found over, the first project I started in 2016, and we found over the years that the dunes were growing faster than the rate of sea level rise. They're naturally accrete sediment. They have this really dynamic ability to be accrete sand with the trapping by the plants and grow in a way that provides this resilience from coastal flooding. So we're talking about a lot of different options for Santa Barbara County now. This is a really exciting time. There's a lot of challenges. We're also working with all of the agencies and municipalities to try to help inform the policy. So we're trying to help the city develop a wastewater adaptation plan so that our wastewater treatment systems are not vulnerable to sea level rise, corrosion, and things like that. Okay, so this is just kind of a summary of some of those programs. We've got a really strong core focused on ocean pollution reduction, water quality improvements, and now improved coastal resilience as well. We recognize that we are not independent from these environments. Instead, we're part of this kind of deep connectivity. Our community is connected to the ocean, we're connected to our youth and the tribes. And so a lot of that gives us, I think, a really fun opportunity. Right now, we're undergoing this revision of our strategic priorities. Which is really exciting, and I'd love to talk more with each of you about that during the Q&A. But this is just a couple of bullet points summarizing some of that. And with that, that is my last slide, and I want to thank everybody for coming so much. I want to thank everybody who's on Zoom, too. Our website is healtheocean.org. There's a QR code here. You don't have to scan it. There's also little donation envelopes at our table out front as well. And you can just connect with us anytime. One of the last things I'll say is we do beach cleanups But we also have lots of other ways for people to be connected and help the ocean. We are primarily donor funded, so thanks to everybody in this room who is already a donor. I see a few of you. And if you're not, every little bit helps, and it's really important. That's one way to support us to be connected. We also have events. We go to we do beach cleanups. We are connected with the surf community too. There's other ways to get involved and volunteer as well. So any questions about that, you can shoot us an email, info@healtheocean.org, or just ask now. But thank you all for your time today. And this is a video that was made by Heather Hudson. It's 4 minutes. Heather is in the audience today. It just summarizes some of kind of what I've said in our history. And then we'll go to Q&A.
The ocean is my life. I grew up on the ocean. Being in the ocean is my source of comfort and love and fun, meditation. Whether you take the way, in the way, everything about the ocean is spiritual. The last 27 years, I got picked up in a tidal wave, and for 27 years, I've been trying to stay ahead of it, because looking for the ocean is never ending. It's very interesting to turn over the brain to someone else and say, go with it. We're still going to keep these programs that we have going. This church week is a day that I have dreamed of. That there is somebody that can take the ocean into the future with a wider scope that's just bringing to us on some platter how to deal with coastal resilience. Here is Karina.
Hi, I'm Karina Johnston, and I'm a long-term resident of Santa Barbara, originally from Texas. I always knew I wanted to be a scientist.
That's me.
Love problem solving and finding solutions to challenges and being outside the box. When you combine that with the ocean, I went to be a marine biologist. I followed that career path academically and in the nonprofit world, and then decided to go back a little bit later to get my PhD in environmental science at UCSC Grant School of Environmental Science Management. My favorite accomplishments I'm most proud of today are bringing coastal habitat restoration and resilience to each of Los County, which is where I was working for a number of years. Implemented several pilot and beach restoration projects to help buffer from the effects of sea level rise, and they were the first projects of the kind in the region, and we've started setting the standards for the state. I also am really proud of all the students and staff that I've mentored over the years, and the people who have mentored me. They're just amazing people. Heal the Ocean has had so many wonderful achievements and accomplishments to be proud of. Looking forward to lots of partnerships and accomplishing goals related to improved water quality, habitat restoration, coastal resilience, and adaptation.
Change is continuous, just as the tides ebb and flow. so too does Heal the Ocean's mission. Moving forward.
We're excited of what is to come, and we will be honored to welcome you on this journey with us.
Early bird over here, so we'll start off, and then again, if someone else in the room has a question, we'll follow up, and then we'll go ahead and check on our Zoomers as well.
Do you want me to turn this off? Oh, there. Hi, Zoom folks.
Thanks, Karina. Could you speak a bit more, could you speak more in depth about the capping of the hundreds of wells that are there in Summerlin?
Yeah, absolutely. The question was about capping of the Summerlin oil wells, and could I speak a little bit more about that? It's definitely been an ongoing challenge for decades and decades. These are historic oil wells that have been partially sealed, but are leaking and providing a source of oil and gas and hydrocarbons into our, oops, stand too close to the speaker, and hydrocarbons into the ocean. State Lands Commission manages that part of Summerlin and offshore. They actually manage many, many oil fields across the state. And so what we determined was that these questions existed about which oil wells were leaking the most, which were actually causing the pollution to kind of bubble up, the oil to bubble up into the ocean, which ones were the strongest emitters, and which ones were interconnected. And so one of the things we didn't know was that a lot of these wells are situated on micro fault lines as part of the understanding of the geology, which means they're very interconnected. And if you seal one off, it might cause problems as it's connected through the aquifer to another well. And so one of the things that we're trying to identify is which ones are connected, which ones are alone, which ones are leaking the most, and really kind of feed all of that information in to help prioritize the next ones that get sealed. And then we will go back to the state, advocate for more funding, talk to the elected officials and the politicians about getting funding to do more sealing allocated to State Lands Commission, and then we'll have this priority list of wells that would provide the most benefit and the least amount of risk for sealing them. There are natural seeps, of course, off of Santa Barbara County, but anything that we can do to seal off the anthropogenic sources, the human-caused pollution is beneficial in my mind. Thanks, Rosemary.
Do you work with the Ocean Conservancy?
Interestingly, we get mixed up with them a little bit sometimes. We don't have a current partnership, but I am familiar with them, and I've been on this kind of whirlwind tour to chat with and meet all the other kind of executive directors and just talk about collaborative opportunities and how our priorities align or how we can support each other. And they are on my list, but if you have anybody that you can connect me to, I would love to have a conversation with them.
Perfect, and we'll go ahead and see.
Certainly alignment in our missions. Sorry, Dean.
No worries, no worries. Anyone on Zoom, if you've got a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, Lucia, go ahead. Lucia, looks
Can we
like you
unmute
might
her?
be muted here.
Hey, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Hold on a
Yes.
second.
All right. I just want to thank you for the beautiful way you highlighted Andrew's story. Homeless,
Oh,
right?
I'm
Homeless
sorry,
without.
something happened. We lost sound. Sorry, Lucia.
All right. And I'm just wondering if there have been any studies, any intensive studies on what occurs to people who've lived near the ocean, like a distance maybe 5 miles, 10 miles, 100 miles. What is the effect of all that toxicity that they're daily breathing in at a close proximity?
Yeah, okay, thank you for that comment, and thank you for the nice thoughts and that question. There have been. I am absolutely not a medical professional, nor do I play one on TV, but I do want to say that has been studied. So going back to kind of that connectivity with the oil questions and the leaking and the methane emissions and things like that, lots and lots of deep understanding of how that can impact human health. A recent kind of extreme version of that was the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf. And that caused a really substantial amount of toxicity for those coastal communities, many of which were disadvantaged communities. The poorest of the communities got hurt the worst. Lots of spikes in cancer rates and problems, and I feel like it didn't get talked about enough. There was also this kind of combo effect from some of the chemicals that they were spraying to try to get rid of the oil or make it sink, in combination with that kind of methane and oil emissions and stuff that were associated with that. So yes, I would say there's lots of studies. It's outside my expertise, but I think it certainly strengthens the need and the justification to protect human health and the ocean at the same time. Thanks for that question. Great.
Perfect. Anyone else on Zoom right now have a question before we head in person? All right, we'll take one in the room. If anything pops up, we can always switch back. I saw your hand over here.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. So 30 years ago, I was introduced to a gentleman. He was flown around the world dealing with algae bloom. He was a specialist, and I saw him affect a beach in Jamaica over the last 30 years. But I think his thing was just that it was killing the coral. Are you familiar with this type of, it was mainly human waste and stuff?
Yeah,
absolutely. Do you network or have that also?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Patrick. Yeah, the question was about harmful algal blooms and algae and the connectivity between it and impacting coral reef habitats and other habitats. This is something that is a really kind of interesting highlight of kind of perfect storm of problems that happen. So water quality pollution, excessive nutrients, that are sort of from over fertilization, things like that, get washed into the ocean. They impact the water quality. They cause algal blooms, and those can impact coastal habitats. And so the coral reefs are fighting this really trifecta of issues between the oceans becoming more acidic with climate change, the oceans becoming warmer and outside of their temperature thresholds with climate change, and water quality issues and pollution. We have some deep water corals in the Santa Barbara Channel, but not coral reefs in that same way. But we also have harmful algal blooms. We have an organism called Pseudonycha, which is a little tiny microorganism that causes toxic algal blooms that lead to domoic acid poisoning in our marine wildlife, and it goes up the food chain, it bioaccumulates, it goes into the oysters, and we end up with, deceased marine mammals, dolphins, birds. So a lot of that is tied to water quality pollution, and a lot of it is tied to other factors that are a little bit more difficult to control, but there is hope. We can take a lot of steps that are tied to local kind of mediation of some of those impacts. We can improve water quality that helps solve that problem, and we can restore coastal habitats to kind of mitigate some of those effects. Things like seagrasses and kelp are really great at absorbing carbon and pollutants and kind of cleaning the water and things like that. So yeah, great question.
Ooh, saw a couple hands.
Okay, Karina, thank you so much for this. And to follow up on Lucia's comment on the screen, two things. First of all, is the local shellfish safe to eat right now? And the other, it is, okay. Well,
So the best place to find up-to-date information is through announcements through like the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and some other advisory groups. We have not had, the last couple of years have been really bad, which is why I kind of answer with a hesitancy, because we've had these harmful algal blooms that have caused the domoic acid to shoot through the roof. Last year was a really bad year. We had hundreds of animals that needed to be rescued. Some of them made it and are really good success stories, some of them didn't, but that is kind of a side effect of some of this, and it definitely affects kind of shellfish too. So I always kind of track that. So a hesitant yes.
okay. There are so many great places on the harbor and the yacht club to have good shellfish. I was just wondering. The other question, you'd be the perfect person to ask about. 10 years ago, there was talk about this wad of garbage in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the size of Texas,
Yes.
heading toward the California coast. So I haven't heard anything recently, and I was just wondering if you knew anything about it.
Yeah. The question was about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's actually one of many around the world, primarily floating plastic in the middle of the Pacific Ocean gyre, kind of the water currents sort of bring it together in this area. There are a lot of different organizations and groups that are working on that. There are people who have tried innovative technologies to kind of skim some of the trash up. There's others who are kind of rescuing animals that get caught in it and things like that. So there's a lot of different groups working on that. I would say our part that's connected to that is really trying to prevent the pollution from going in the ocean in the first place. And so we work really hard to try to keep that trash and that plastic out of the water. So I hope that maybe our part is helping it not get bigger, and then a lot of support and kudos to the groups who are working on actually cleaning it up. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the issue, the magnitude of the issue with oil. And I mean, having lived in Santa Barbara for 40 years, I've done a lot of driving from Buellton down to Ventura and back, and I've seen the oil wells that are out there. I don't know if those wells that are there now, that are visible, are still pumping oil or if they've been shut down. And then I'm hearing, but there's so many oil wells, like were there many more at one time that maybe have been shut down but are still leaking?
Yes.
And then there's the oil that's seeping up that doesn't have a well attached to it or any kind of cap on it. So could you just address those three things?
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions relating to oil off our coast. So all three things are interrelated. So Santa Barbara has a kind of rich geologic history with having underground hydrocarbon reserves. And so that prompted a lot of extraction over the decades, over 100 plus years. And there's a couple of things. One is that a lot of that infrastructure, especially that was put in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and those kind of decades, is really poorly maintained, and so there's this kind of interrelated series of issues. But so there's a history, there is a natural sort of source of these kind of hydrocarbons under our ocean floor. There is a long history of extraction of those resources with hundreds of oil wells, the big platforms that light up like faraway Christmas trees, off the coast, and other infrastructure. And so some of that has been abandoned. The giant oil platforms that are off our coast, in our sort of tri-county area, there's about half of them are not working anymore. And those usually have been sealed off, but then not fully abandoned. So they haven't kind of dug out all the infrastructure, cleaned out all the pipelines, done a really deep kind of sealing of those structures. So the very first one that's going to be removed is Platform Holly, and that's right off of Elwood in Goleta. And that platform is also the closest one to our shore. So it's a really interesting case study for what's going to happen and how it will be removed. We're actually meeting and talking and informing that through conversations with State Lands Commission, who owns that platform now, or manages it because the oil companies went defunct and then sold it off. And so that's a really good example. That one, finally, after kind of thinking through this and studying them for decades, there's a plan. So about half of them are still sort of in production of oil, and then about half of them are in some stage of ready to be taken out.
And is the oil transported from the wells to the land by boat or by pipe or both?
But from the platforms, both, but primarily via underground pipelines. From the nearshore wells that used to have like the oil, like derrick or the pump on it. Those are mostly pipes, underground pipes.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
Perfect. And we do see that we actually do have a Zoom guest that has a question as well. So Anne, go ahead.
Hi, Karina. Thank you. I have a question. You just said oil companies had gone defunct and then somebody else acquired, I guess, the land. Who owns the ocean floor, starting at the surf's edge and going outward?
Great question, Anne. That is something I used to teach a course on at Loyola Marymount University in LA. The jurisdiction is complicated. I once did a dune restoration project in LA, very close to LAX, and it required 8 different permits from 8 different agencies. One example is we just removed a boat that had wrecked in the Chumash National Marine Sanctuary, right by Point Conception, required 5 different emergency permits. It was jurisdiction between the state, the California Coastal Commission, the Danger Mound Preserve, the Nature Conservancy, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. There's like 3 other, Santa Barbara County. Anyway, there's another one. So that's a really complicated question. Platform Holly specifically is in waters that are managed by the state. The nearshore waters are the California State Lands Commission. Anything in the coastal zone, which is sort of the nearshore and intertidal areas up to about kind of a mile from the coastline, give or take, is managed by the California Coastal Commission. And then there's a whole suite of kind of complicated agencies layering on top of that. So whether or not it's unincorporated county or it fits within a city jurisdiction, the city of Santa Barbara manages the harbor and their own waterfront area. So kind of just there's, I'm happy to have a side conversation about that. But the platform Holly specifically is State Lands Commission. The oil companies lease the area from the state, but they just tend to trade hands frequently. Refugio Pipeline being another example of that. They what? Trade hands. So
those of us who live in Buellton are very concerned about the Sable pipeline.
Thank you.
That was a pipeline that's very old, very corroded, already had a major leak a few years ago, and it was offloaded by a major oil company to a very small oil company who does not have the resources to even offer cleanup if they were to have another leak, which is inevitable.
Yes.
And we have managed to stop it with all the different county, state, coastal, all those organizations you were talking about. But now the federal government has stepped in and has authorized it. Is your organization involved with that at all?
Yes, absolutely. Question is about Sable and those pipelines and related issues. First, thank you. Everybody who has stepped up that has identified that, and I'm originally Texas, but a Texas-based company should not determine what we as locals know is a recurring issue. An out-of-state small company who doesn't have the resources, it has recurring criminal violations, cannot make good decisions about pipeline maintenance. And so, yes, Heal the Ocean is very much involved. We are not directly involved with the lawsuits, but our partners at Environmental Defense Center are, and we support them in all the ways that we can. Most recently, and Vivian mentioned this, is that the federal government stepped in and determined that any federal waters were now open for drilling, which besides negating all of the state environmental laws, is really a kind of power move that takes away power kind of from our state and our ability to make local decisions about this. All of that aside, there are really strong regulations in California for a reason. We have this history of identifying problems and using environmental regulations to try to solve them or prevent it from happening in the future. This pipeline that's owned by Sable is the same one that had the Refugio oil spill in 2015, and we remember what kind of devastation that caused up and down our coast, all the way in LA. And so, yes, we are involved. Yes, we are taking action. Yes, we encourage everybody else to get involved too. I will end that on a positive note. The county, Santa Barbara County, has recently banned new oil and gas facilities and drilling. Similarly, the city of Carpinteria, other cities have followed suit and taken similar actions. We are really grateful for their partnership and attention. Even our county supervisor, who has more of a complicated history with oil, said that's enough. We can't do that. So some local wins, some local ordinances in effect, some positive kind of direction politically at the local level, and we will keep fighting the good fight. We aren't going anywhere. So. Yeah.
I have a question about any pending legislation that you might want us to advocate for or against.
Well, the Federal Bureau of Ocean Management, BOEM, just had closed a comment period about, I highly encourage everybody, the short version is, I highly encourage everybody to sign up for our electronic newsletter, get on our mailing list. If you're so inclined to follow on social media or check out our website, those are really good ways to kind of get the quick action advocacy that we're really looking for. So that's an excellent question, but I don't want to launch into like 5 other things. But platform holiday decommissioning, good opportunity for public comment too.
Karina, thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Immaculate
this.
Heart Community.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. I live down the coast of Venice Beach, and so I'm watching what's going on up here.
Same oil history.
Yeah, and it seems to me like there should, I don't know if there is, but like a whole coastal effort to push off what the federal government's trying to do. I don't know if anybody's organized, beyond their own communities.
Yes, okay. Absolutely. It's a whole statewide movement.
Okay. Okay, good. So
we know what's best for California.
Yeah. And I learned about coastal resilience today. When we hear about, the ocean, we just think about the water. Well, those of us that are living along the coast. Yeah, so thank you. This is a little gift from us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And everybody else, thank you. Come back next month for our next Lunch and Learn. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for coming. It was great to see you all. Thank you.